Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Betting Show, Week 14. I am joined, as always, with Adam. Adam's looking a bit like something's going wrong there. Is it all working smoothly?
All good. It's all good. We're back.
We're back. Last week we went 3-2 on the F-Tag 5. The two results that didn't come in were I thought they were locks as well. You know, I think we had the Jags getting too close.
Yes.
And the Panthers getting a bit close with the Buccaneers. They were the only two. So
it was close, wasn't it? A little bit of a surprise, them two. I think maybe the Panthers are a team that we kind of need to keep on side a little bit if you get some big pluses.
Yeah. Bryce Young looks like he's what we expected him to be. You know, considering the last 4 games now in a row, he's played really, really well, and he's doing it without a big cast on that team, is there? That, you know, he's not.
How dare you? Adam Thielen's back now. Old man Thielen. How dare you come and criticise him?
Well, you know, he's not the superstar that he used to be, is he? You know, he's in his later years.
Yeah.
But I've been quite impressed with them, and I think he's gone and won himself a starting job for next year. I think Bryce Young has, so I think it's looking positive in Carolina, which I haven't.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Let's not get too excited, but it's looking more positive than what it was. So
you know, that's good for them. You know, it was only looking like down, and more down. So it's not too bad. But we'll move on to week 14. We've already had a game. It was last night. It was your Green Bay Packers at Detroit. I said to Freddie the other night, I think the standalone games this year, the Thursday nights, the Monday nights, the late game on the Sunday, have been really, really good. And this one didn't let down at all either. The game finished 34-31 to Detroit. Getting that field goal right at the end with the clock expiring. Really great clash. Adam, what was your take on the game?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good game. Both offenses looked pretty decent. Defensively, you kind of felt like it was a bit of a surprise that so many points were given up. I felt like both defenses didn't play particularly great. Obviously, Detroit had a lot of injuries on that side, especially the D-line, which is how come you ended up with Josh Jacobs getting 3 touchdowns. And yeah, I think that both teams did quite well. It's one of them where I think to a certain extent, both offenses are so good, you're going to get shootouts when it comes to these two. It's not a massive surprise. I wasn't surprised that the Lions won at all. If anything, I was the one who picked them in our pool as opposed to you and a few others. But I think that what you're going to see with these two teams over the next couple of years, actually, is I think you're going to get these games where it's almost like last team possessing the ball wins. I think that's what you're going to get. You've seen it before with the likes of whenever the Bills and the Chiefs or the Bengals and the Chiefs or the Bengals and the Bills. Whenever any of them would go up against each other, that was what you got. And it feels like that might be what you're going to start seeing with the Lions and the Packers a little bit over the next couple of years. So, yeah, good game, really exciting game, and shame that we lost, but I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I really thought Green Bay had a great shot in this one. Like you said, I picked them this week for the win. Maybe if Goff had fumbled a bit more on that 4th down, you know, we could be sitting here saying Packers win, but we're not. So hey.
We don't moan about just a few decisions, do we? We got to you don't always get the rub of the green. That's just how it works sometimes. So.
Well, I think all you need to do is get enough of a score to qualify for the playoffs and then win it then.
Exactly.
It's a decent time to lose these games if you know you're going to qualify because you've learned something. You're going to come up against them again. You'll have more tape, more footage. you'd be more experienced, and maybe you can go out and beat them in the playoffs and work it that way. But take a positive from all of them.
Exactly.
Well, we'll move on to our F-Tag 5 for this week. Bit of a mixed bag this week with the spreads. I thought there were some nice ones to pick from. There was some I was quite confident about, and I could have maybe put in some others. So it was a little bit easier than what it has been in previous weeks, where I found it very, very hard to pick 5. So the first one I went for was the Buccaneers at -6.5 against the Raiders. The Raiders now playing with a plethora of young kids. They're doing their best, but it's just not quite good enough as a whole. Whereas the Buccaneers played last week, they played the Giants, and they didn't play great, and they still won comfortably. So for me, if you're taking those the momentum into this game for those two, I think Buccaneers are going to be looking good for this game. And they didn't play the Giants. It was Giants week before. It was Panthers last week, wasn't it?
It was.
Good little error. Played bad and won as well. It's got to be the Buccaneers for me. They can still top their division. They've got a lot to play for, and the Raiders, like I said, it's just kids. So I don't think they've quite got enough in the tank to beat this Buccaneers team, and I think it will be by 7 to 14 plus points for the Buccaneers. Adam, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, so the Raiders 2-10, second pick in next year's draft. It's tanking time. That's what we're going for here. The Raiders are not interested at all, and I think that we're starting to see that with the likes. I know they've had a few injuries at running back, but McCormack has come in. Sincere McCormack, brilliant name. It deserves his chance just for the name. And I think that you're starting to see this. It's very much Brock Bowers and not a lot else. Jacoby Myers, in fairness, is getting involved. And he's doing quite well, but they're kind of the only two options. But I don't know who the quarterback is. Is it Aidan O'Connell? Is he back for this game?
I think he is.
Yeah. So I mean, he's okay, but he's not going to do much. You're going up against the Bucs defense that's very difficult to run against. Raiders not great in the run game, and you can pass on this Bucs defense. So that's probably where it's going to come from. I would expect the likes of Bowers and Jacoby Myers to have a decent game in this one. But yeah, as you say, the Bucs, they've got something to play for. They're still they've got a chance of winning this division. The Falcons, who's basically their main competition, have not been fantastic at all. They've struggled in the last few weeks. So the Bucs are looking all right. They've got Mike Evans back, who you would expect to do well. And although it's a reasonably big number at -6.5, it is within the touchdown. And yeah, you've just got this team at home. Everything points to a Bucs win. It really does. And the -6.5, they may, in the same way they did against the Panthers, they might struggle to put up enough points. But the one thing I would say about the difference here is I feel like the Panthers, they're trying to do something with Bryce Young in these last few games. The Raiders, I just get the feeling now that they're at 2-10, it's done. And they know this, and that there's nothing to go for. And yeah, I think now it's about getting the best pick that you can get, especially given the fact that you have to believe they're going to want a quarterback. So it just makes sense. So yeah, -6.5, very happy to take that, and I would expect definitely a Bucs win, and probably cover the spread on that.
Yeah, I would have thought so as well. Now, the next game I've got down, really interesting one. It's just a little bit lower there. The Jets at the Dolphins. I have got the Dolphins at -5.5, but really interesting. This spread opened up at 7.5. So someone, whether it's the pros or people in New York, are heavily backing the Jets in this one to bring it from 7.5 all the way in to 5.5. So I'm 50-50 on this one, whether you should sit on it a bit longer and see if more money comes in for the Jets and that comes down to 4.5, 3.5, I don't know, or just get it now before people start realizing it's 5.5 and start banging more money on the Dolphins, because I think it's a lock that the Dolphins win this one comfortably. The Jets look terrible. They look really, really bad. They've looked bad on defense as well since Salah left, and offense, Rodgers just doesn't look. He looks like a statue again. Like, we said at the start of the season, oh, maybe a bit of the movement is there. It's not, is it? And Dolphins, we've said that they're going to be the hot team coming into the back end of the season. We said it, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. They're ready for a hot streak. So it seems to have been clicking and working, and they seem to be able to put points upon the board again. Now Tua's fully back to health, so I think this is the lock bet of the week to bang your money on if at 5.5.
Yeah, it's so obviously the Dolphins can't win the division. The Bills have got that sewn up, so they're not going to be looking to win this division. And actually, how hilarious is it that basically we had at the beginning of the season the Jets and the Dolphins were meant to be competing. We got a Dolphins side at 5-7 and the Jets at 3-9. And the Bills have just gone out and obliterated everyone. So it's kind of just back to normal, really. So, yeah, you've got these two teams that have struggled. They're very different reasons, though. The Dolphins have struggled because of the injury to Tua and missing him for so long. The Jets have struggled because they're the Jets and they're not very good. So it's a really... It does feel like with the Dolphins, there is a bit of momentum there. It feels like Tyreek's getting more involved. Jalen Waddle's getting more involved. Jonnu Smith has been great. We have been saying him now for about 3 or 4 weeks, and he has come in for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we will continue to say Jonnu Smith because for some reason he keeps getting the ball in the end zone. So I think that the Dolphins offensively are looking very good. The other thing is, don't get enough credit defensively, the Dolphins. When it comes to giving up rushing yards, they are 9th in the league. When it comes to giving up passing yards, they're also 9th in the league. So that is a very solid all-round defense as well, and something that people need to keep an eye on because they are doing really well and they have potential. If I just quickly have a look, if you look at so Denver is 8-5. It's a tough ask when you're 5-7, but there is potential. You could possibly still get into the playoffs with 5 games left to go. So there is a chance that they could get in, but it's going to be tough. But they need to win, and they need to win games like this. As you say, Jets just have been barely anything on the offense, to be brutally honest. And last week felt very much like Rodgers was only interested in throwing the ball to Devontae Adams, and you got what you got from that, and that was not a lot. So it's very difficult to think that they're going to be able to do much going up against a solid Dolphins defense. -5.5, it's within the touchdown. Yeah, why not?
What are we missing? Why are people banging loads of money on the Jets? What are we missing?
I think. I mean, first of all, I'd say I don't know how much is loads of money to move it. I understand what you're saying, that it's moved from 7.5 to 5.5. I think 7.5 is obviously pushing it over the touchdown. That is probably meant that people have gone, don't like that. It's over a touchdown. So that's maybe why it started going that way. There was talk about potentially Rodgers being benched. So that's another thing that could have created a storyline. And obviously that's not going to be the case. So that might be why. Other than that, I just think that I think what a lot of people are forgetting is I understand that this Jets defense is not playing fantastic, but they are still second when it comes to giving up passing yards. They still have really good players on that defense. And so the idea of them being completely blown out.
And the offense. They've got great players.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got Garrett Wilson, you've got Devonta Adams, you've got Breece Hall. These guys are all meant to be like incredibly good offensive weapons. And so the idea that they're going to be blown out is difficult. The thought of them being like losing by 10 or more is just, it seems a little bit off. So I think maybe that's what's happened. Maybe it's overcorrected itself a little bit as well because of that. But I think the Dolphins at home with their players and the way that their defense is playing, I think they'll do okay. And so -5.5. It's a little high, I would say, but I think it's doable.
Yeah, my next game I've gone for, we've just mentioned them previously. It's the Buffalo Bills at the Rams. They are -3.5. I thought that was quite a generous spread for the Bills with how well they've been playing and how hit and miss the Rams have been. Bills have been playing probably the best of anyone at the moment. Josh Allen is putting up MVP numbers. The defense seems to be playing really, really well too. And the Rams, as we've said, they have moments in games where they look great and they have moments where they don't. They have a lot of youngsters on that team, and it will take them another year to gel, and they will come back stronger next year. I believe that. But this is Bill's year, and I think 3.5, I like that. I know it's over the field goal, but I like them winning by more than the field goal. They like to put up the points. So I quite like the Bills for this one.
Yeah, I kind of agree. There's not really a great deal to say here, I don't think. I think the Bills are a cut above at the moment. They're flying. Not only that, they're going up against the Rams defense that's currently 28th against rushing yards, with the likes of James Cook and Josh Allen and also Ray Davis. We're seeing with Ray Davis is getting more and more involved with them three guys. I think they're just going to love running the ball against this Rams defense that has struggled against the run for most of this season. Not bothered about the fact that it's 3.5. I know it's over the field goal, but no, I would rather have the explosive offense of the Bills here. And the Rams, as you said, they are a team that is just that they need to improve in the secondary. I think they definitely need to improve, and I think they're okay offensively, but they're not. I feel like Cooper Kupp has gone missing a little bit since he's been back, and they need a number it's difficult because Demarcus Robinson has been all right, but it just feels like it's not quite clicking offensively. They're not quite up to the sort of powerful offense that they've had before. So I think that's probably how it's going to be for them for the rest of this season. They do still have a really strong chance of getting in the playoffs. They're only one game off of the Seahawks, who are currently leading their division. So they do have a really good chance of getting in there, but this is going to be a tough game to do anything. And I think if they were at home to, a team like the Bears or, I don't know, maybe like the Dolphins or something like that, I think it would be more of a 50-50, more chance of winning. But the Bills are so strong at the moment that I think it's just going to be too tough for them to get through this one.
Yeah, I think Coleman and Kincaid both practiced yesterday as well.
Coleman is definitely meant to be back, they're saying. Yeah. I think that Kincaid is a bit game time, but yeah, that's only going to help them as well.
Mm-hmm. Next up, a team that we weren't putting our money on before, but we are now, because they're playing the Giants. So we're taking the Saints at the Giants. It is 5 points. I don't quite like this one because it could come down to a field goal, but Giants don't want to win games, do they? They'll play in it for so long and they'll keep it close for a bit, and then they'll just go, right, that's enough. We've shown that we can actually do stuff and we're not a complete embarrassment. Now let them win. And Saints, despite that, tragic loss to Hill, you know, was a big part of their team and their game plan, and they were getting the ball to him more. I think with Alvin Kamara and they'll just feed him the ball a lot. It'll be absolutely fine. MVS will probably have one big catch over the top for a touchdown as well, won't he? So, you know, like just one catch per game that puts 6 on the board. So I like the Saints to beat the Giants, and I quite like them for it to be by a touchdown. I think maybe that, around that 7-10 mark again. So I'm gonna put my money on the Saints, which I didn't think I'd be saying much this season.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how you end up reaching this point of the season, and you obviously other narratives come into it. And the Giants are currently 3rd in the draft order, want a quarterback, and are pretty much doing everything they possibly can to make sure that they get one of the top guys. So it would be surprising to see anything other than a Saints win here, because the Giants are just not interested. Basically, they've made the decision. They're not interested, and they are looking to the future, which is, to be honest, probably the most sensible thing they could do at this point. And yeah, they're 29th in the league when it comes to giving up rushing yards. I would expect Alvin Kamara to have a pretty good game in this one, and I think that probably everyone else has come out and thought the same thing, which is why it has moved from -4.5 when you did it to -5. Yeah, I think it's I don't think it's necessarily going to be the most exciting game to watch, but I think that Saints will probably win it fairly comfortably, I would have thought.
Yeah, we're just waiting to see which Giants player will go onto IR next, don't you? No Theo
It does
Johnson
seem to be
now,
a bit like that, doesn't
no
it?
Sexy
Every
Dexy
week
anymore. You know, we were only watching the games for his sacks, and now he's on IR. So, yeah, they're doing everything they can to make sure their best players aren't on the field and playing. So, I think Neighbours did he claim that he didn't have full practice? I think.
I haven't looked at Giants news in the last. No, it's not on my main list of stuff. But yeah, I didn't see that. But I mean, I assume Tracy will still be out there.
Yeah.
So there are, there's and Drew Lock did have a couple of decent throws.
As I said, they'll keep themselves in the game for a certain point, and then they'll go, right, now take the foot off the pedal and just let them take over. So
yeah, I think that the one thing is, and there's been rumours going around, and I really hope that this isn't the case about Dayball going at the end of the season. I mean, they just have to keep him and just accept that this is a dead year, and that it doesn't mean anything. But yeah, I think Saints -4.5 is all right.
As the head coach and a coach that's won Coach of the Year and got the best out of Daniel Jones that anyone could ever imagine, how can you blame him for not doing great this year when you get rid of Saquon and you've got Daniel Jones? And
he's the Giants, so
it just seems silly. Why get rid of him? I don't think he's the problem. You know, he made Tommy DeVito look good last year. You know, he won some games with him.
Wow.
He's
Hall of Fame coach now. That's it. He made Tommy DeVito look good.
Oh, made him a household sensation. So it's all good. It's all good. And our final one to complete the F tag 5 is Freddie's Pittsburgh Steelers. Browns at Steelers. I've gone with the Steelers at -6.5. Browns have been playing good, but James Winston did not have a good game last week. 2 pick sixes. I can see more of that. The Steelers defense is really, really good, and I can see him making mistakes in this one. And Steelers, can Russell Wilson keep it going? Can he keep these passes that just seem to manage to find their way into Steelers players' hands and put up big points? I think it can in this one. They need to keep the games winning. It's a big rivalry. They'll want to really, at home, they'll want to win this one big, won't they? So I'm hoping that they can win it by a touchdown or more, and Winston has a bit of a stinker and throw some more pick sixes.
Yeah, this is the scary one of the group that you've selected. This is the one that is a little concerning. Steelers have looked really good since Russell Wilson's been in there on the offense. They have improved a lot, and I think that clearly shows that the difference between him and Justin Fields. I think that now they would be silly not to move on with Wilson. I think it's the obvious thing that they need to do. You say they're very good on the defense, and they are. They've been very, they are very solid, very good against the run. Against the pass, they 19th for giving up passing yards. They're not as good as what I think we all probably think they are, and that's the concern. Because on the other side of the ball, you have a crazy man, and he's very happy to throw it everywhere and anywhere at any time, just for a laugh. And I know that you're saying he had a bad game last week, but I think he's just out there having fun.
Yeah,
To be honest, I think that's what he's doing, and he doesn't. Not that he doesn't care, but it's just like he's just playing very freely, and he's out there having fun, and he's probably somehow managed to get himself another job for God knows how many more years as well, because it's like he has got some results out of it as well, and I think that you're going to see the Steelers do have it's not a massive weakness against the pass, but it's clearly their weakness is against the pass. And you've got this quarterback who's just happy to throw it around anywhere and will do that. And he's got receivers that are, they're okay. They're not awful, these receivers. They're not amazing by any stretch. But you've got Njoku, you've got Jerry Jeudy, you've got Cedric Tillman, who's going to be back for this game. So they've got some guys that can do something here. I think the Steelers win it. The amount. Do I think that because the thing is the Browns are going to want to, as much as you say the Steelers are going to want to win by a big score, of course they are. The Browns are going to want to cause the upset at the Steelers as well, and so you just sort of think when you do have players like Myles Garrett and stuff like that on the defense, are they going to be able to limit the Steelers' offense to maybe a little bit more? When you do have Jameis Winston going crazy and throwing the ball everywhere, you probably will give up a few picks. But at the same time, if you can throw for like 3 touchdowns as well, what does it matter kind of thing when it comes to this specific sort of bet? So -6.5, it feels a lot. That's my concern with it. It feels a lot. And I just think that the way it's going at the moment with the Browns and with Jameis Winston, I don't know what he's got going on his side. He thinks he's got God on his side. I mean, I dread to think what else he's got on his side at the moment. But he's just having a whale of a time, and he could easily put 3 touchdowns on this team, easily. And I don't know if the Steelers are going to be the team that goes out and gets 40 points.
Well, they proved us wrong throughout the season. We always thought they weren't a team that was going to put up scores.
They're much better, much better than what they have been in the past. Much better.
So, Adam, we take that one out. We don't want the Steelers in there. What's your advice for a game that I've missed that people might want to replace that one with?
I mean, it's horrible, isn't it? I was looking at these because I knew you were going to say this, and I was like, oh, I don't really know. There's some real rough ones. The one that kind of screams out to me, and you're not going to like it because you're like, it's a 50-50 game. To me, it's the Cardinals against the Seahawks, and the Cardinals -2.5. And the only reason that I'm saying it is I just think I think I've been saying it most of the season with the Seahawks. They're very good against poor teams and they struggle against the better ones. And this Cardinals defense I don't know how they're doing it because they haven't got anyone particularly great on it, but they just seem to be stopping teams a lot more. And the offense is doing pretty well. I mean, I know they lost against the Vikings last week, but they should have won that game. They had plenty of chances to really get over the line there, and they didn't, and they sort of gave that one away. But I just think when they're at home, they seem to be a little bit different. They seem to be a much better team. I think Trey McBride is just ridiculous on that team. And although Marvin Harrison has sort of dipped in and out a bit, I just think that they're a very good team that's going to do something. And on top of that, you're going up against the Seahawks defense, which is 21st at giving up rushing yards. And I think the likes of James Conner and Trey Benson and even DeMarcotto, they look like they're doing all right with the run. You've got Kyler as well who can run. I just think they're a better team than the Seahawks at the moment. I think it's close. I do, but I just think they're a slightly better team. They're going to be at home. And the Seahawks, I don't know. The Seahawks are one of them teams where it's just really difficult to pinpoint what the problem is, because it's like everything is okay, and that's the problem in a way. None of it's great. It's just okay.
I feel like we've had this conversation before because
we've had this conversation many times.
They only met 2 weeks ago. These two teams, didn't they? They met in week 12, and Arizona failed to score a touchdown. And Seahawks win this game, so I feel like we had.
It'll be the other way around this time. To be brutally honest, I thought they were horrible. This lot, like to pick from, they really were. So although I wasn't keen on the Steelers one, I'm really not against going with that. I'm not, because I understand it, but to me it just felt like I was looking through them and it almost kind of felt like you had to come up with a coin flip game in order to come up with anything that you feel bad. Because if I just quickly go through them, Falcons, Vikings. Do I like the Vikings at -5.5? Not really.
I like the Falcons at +5.5 though.
Do you though? Because they haven't been great though offensively. They've really struggled. Do you think that Cousins is suddenly gonna be amazing?
If there's any game that he needs to, it's this one, because if they lose this one and Buccaneers win, Falcons have got to play for that top spot, haven't they? They'll drop out of it. So this is a must-win game for them. I think
going back to his old team,
it is winnable. And
I think the Vikings are very, very good against the run. I think that they'll stop that. So it's going to be reliant on Cousins. We all know how Cousins does when pressure comes along. So that could be a bit of a concern. Panthers, Eagles. I'm not giving -13 to the Eagles. Yeah. They probably will win it. They'll probably win it comfortably. Do I think they'll get -13? Maybe, but I wouldn't be too excited about it. And at the same time, do I think the Panthers will score enough on this Eagles defense? So that's a really tough one. Jags, Titans. Who cares? Does anyone care?
You got to think it's going to be the Titans, haven't you? You got to think Jags are also in tanking mode now as well.
Yeah. I mean that's what it is, isn't it? I mean, they're number one. So they're the number one. But that was here's a stat. This is one for Sky. Sky loves a stat, just so you know. Trent Baalke will be the only general manager to have made the first round pick 3 out of 5 years.
Yep.
How is the man in a job? That's insane.
Well, maybe he won't next year, and Bill Belichick will be the GM and head coach there, which I've been saying for a long time.
Possibly, you never know. That would make sense. And then
for him there.
And then finally, Bears away at the 49ers. 49ers got loads of injuries. Bears are not brilliant.
The Bears find ways to lose games.
So maybe -4 on the 49ers might be worth having a look at. I just think out of what was left, the Cardinals against the Seahawks. This is a tough week. You've got a lot of good teams that are on bye. It was a really good one.
I was going to say so. Why this week is there so many teams on bye? I know it's
because they want to upset my fantasy team. That's why.
Upset everybody's fantasy team, I think, because there's so many on bye week this week. It's ridiculous. They could have spread that out, because we had weeks where there was only like 2.
Well, last week there was no one. Could we not have had 2 teams on bye last week and 2 less this week?
Is it because it was Thanksgiving?
No, okay, fair enough. But there must have been some other weeks, surely, at some point.
Yeah, there were some early ones where there wasn't many. So, I find it really odd, especially maybe they've done it on purpose for people's fantasy teams. Maybe they just went, do you know what? Week 14 is the week that everybody plays to get to the playoffs. It's the final one before the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's just sabotage everybody.
Admittedly, when you're already in the playoffs, it's not a problem.
Well, it is when you're looking to get one of the top spots for a bye.
Nah, don't worry about that. That don't
matter. Adam, touchdown scorers. What are you saying?
Yeah, so we've got a few that are over 2-1. So Adam Thielen against the Eagles. Obviously, Eagles really good defense. Third against the pass, but Thielen scored last week. He looked good. It looks like he's fit again. 100-30, really nice price for Adam Thielen. So it's a bit of a punt, that one, but I think that there's a strong chance that it might come in.
You like Jerry Leggett in that one as well?
Yeah, he's
what is he? Target, isn't he? 15.
Yeah. Leggett is not actually. David Moore, in a weird kind of way, seems to be getting targeted quite a bit. I've been noticing, but yeah, I think Thielen is probably still the most reliable target for Bryce Young. Jerry Jeudy for the Browns going up against Steelers. Now, I did kind of mention all of these guys, to be honest. Any of them that are over 2-1, I think have got a chance of coming in. But Jerry Jeudy had a really good game last week, and he scored last week. Steelers are 19th against the pass, as we mentioned, so I like him at 11-5. I think he's got a good chance of getting in. Jacoby Myers for the Raiders going up against the Bucks. Now the Bucks are 30th against the pass. 26 targets in the last 2 games, so he's getting the ball thrown to him, and it's just a matter of whether he can get in the end zone. But at 12-5, I think he's a good bet. One against your boys, against the Giants, the Saints. He's there. He's at 2-1. He's an enigma, I think, is probably the nicest word to call Marquez Valdez-Scantling at 2-1. 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. So it's difficult to get away from that. The Giants are pretty good against the pass, though. They are 6th against giving up passing yards, mainly because they can be beaten by the run quite easily. But yeah, I think that 2-1 for MVS is worth a punt there. For the LA Rams going up against the Bills, another team really good against the pass, the Bills. They're currently ranked 8th. But Demarcus Robinson has had 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. And not only that, he's had 6 in his last 5 games. So at 3-1, I think the ball, the idea is that obviously Puka and Cooper Kupp are the 2 where the ball's meant to be going. But Demarcus Robinson is getting involved. He has been getting targets. And so, yeah, I quite like him at that price. I think it's quite a big price for him, actually. I was a little surprised. And then my final one in the last of the late night games is DJ Moore for the Chicago Bears against the 49ers. Again, another team that are very good against the pass. They're 4th again when it comes to giving up passing yards. But DJ Moore has had 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks. He's been going up against good teams in Minnesota and Detroit when he scored them. And at 21-10, I think he's worth a shot here because he seems to be getting more involved. And their offense, ever since Shane Steichen, it's not Shane Steichen, is it? Who was it?
It's Shane Waldron.
Shane Waldron. That's a shame.
If they had Shane Steichen,
I was flowing and everything. They had Shane Steichen, it'd be good. Shane Waldron, ever since he's gone, they have improved. And more importantly, DJ Moore has been getting involved a lot more on the offense and has scored a couple of touchdowns. So, yeah, 21-10, I think is a good one. They were all the ones that I came up with that were over 2-1 that are not included.
I was going to say that aren't in your
treble.
Are we going to have the same early treble then? Are we? In this case,
I've only got one guy that's over 2-1.
All right, okay.
One in the early, one in the late.
I know farewell. We're going to have, I think, definitely two of the same players in this.
The early.
In the early, yeah. So I'll go with mine first, just to ruin it.
Is it touchdown heavy? Is it tight end time?
There's 2 of them in there. But I've gone for Nick Westbrook-Akine at 15.
Oh, you didn't. You definitely.
Because he gets touchdowns every week.
Does.
He's a machine.
Yeah, he does.
They're only going up against the tanking Jags. So surely he gets in the end zone once again. Is it 7 and 8 he's had? Is it?
No, 8 and 8. He got 2
8
last
and 8.
week.
Oh.
It's the first week that we've done the show in about 5 or 6 weeks. I haven't been able to include him in the over 2-1 bets.
We did one 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah, but I haven't been able to include. I was able to include him every time in the 2-1 or higher bets. He's now 7-4, so I can't include him in it. He keeps scoring.
Yep, and he will do again. I have also had Cade Otton going up against the Raiders at 6-4. And then I finished it off with a guy that we both got excited about earlier of Jonnu Smith at 7-4. So those three come in at just under 19-1. It's 18.76-1. So I am very happy with those odds on those three players that seem to be in good form.
Yeah, I like Nick Westbrook-Akine. Jonnu Smith's good. Cade Otton has dipped off in the last couple of weeks. He seems to have, ever since Mike Evans has come back, he seems to have disappeared a little bit, and that's the only concern I'd have for that. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think it's got a good chance there. We do both have Jonnu Smith, obviously, because love a bit of Jonnu Smith. Can't not have him at 7-4. I've gone for Mike Evans at 11-10. And then finally, my big one, we're going full crazy man. For David and Joker. Come on, Jameis. We want another one at 5-2.
He targets him a lot.
He targets him a lot. And the other thing is, and this is kind of the reason why I've gone with it. We're talking about everyone's going on about Steelers having a really good defense. As we were saying, 19th against the pass when I mentioned Jerry Jeudy. But they went up against a really good pass defense last week in the Denver Broncos. And Jameis did well, and they were away, and Njoku had a good game. And so at 5-2, I was surprised at how high he was. I thought he would be shorter than Jeudy. So I can only assume just because Judy's was such a massive game that's why it's changed. So yeah, Jonnu Smith, Mike Evans, David Njoku, 19.21-1.
Oh, similar odds for us then. You slightly edged me with that Njoku one. Maybe I swap out Otton and put in Njoku. My odds are going to be great. Take one off of you.
I do like Westbrook-Akine. It's scary because it's just one big play, isn't it? That's the thing. But
it was more. He worries me because of who he is, and it's not a regular thing. But they're going against the Jags, and I was like, it's be a thing in that game. Like it wouldn't be a usual thing, but yeah, I think just that
they're last as well against passing yards.
It seems right to get him in, and I like the odds as well. So the late games was a tough one. There's only 3 to pick from again. We did say that we might think about adding that late game in to make it easier for us, but we haven't. So I've gone with Trey McBride at 7-4. He seems to be the whole offense for them at the minute in the passing game. Gets a lot of targets and a lot of yards. Whether he gets to the end zone or not might be a different story, but I know the ball's going his way.
Yes.
My next one is Khalil Shakir at 8-4, just because he plays out the slot. He's going to be used in red zone, and he's the best odds I can get for a player in that match for the Bills, who I think are going to score more because the Cook and Josh Allen are going to be really, really short, aren't they? And then, like we said, the others are a little bit banged up, and he's the healthiest. So I think Shakir at 8-5 is probably the best odds I'm going to get for a player on the team that I think is going to score the most. And then finally, I put in George Kittle at 15-8. Again, it was a really difficult game to pick which one I thought was going to score. But I think Kittle is always a good option every single game to get in the end zone. So, yeah, all of that together, 19.55-1.
Okay, so we've gone for the same teams.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
First shot.
shockingly. We've gone for the same three teams. Trey McBride, as great as he is, just doesn't score. He hasn't scored all season. And you got to think eventually it's going to happen. So, I mean, in that respect, maybe it's the way forward. But I've gone for Marvin Harrison instead at 7-4. I just think that it just feels like that he's the red zone target and McBride is the one who gets them there. That seems to be how it
Chain
works.
mover,
So,
yeah.
yeah, basically. So I've gone for Harrison at 7-4. I've gone Keon Coleman at 8-5. I had Shakir down. I don't. To be brutally honest, I don't know which one to go for. They're both the same price, and it is a little bit concerning. I think that Shakir again, he's going to be involved. He's going to get loads of targets. I'm just very wary about whether he gets the touchdown. I think Coleman is more likely to do that. And then I do like George Kittle, but I've gone for Juwan Jennings at 21-10 instead. I just feel like, to me, it feels like they are the two, aren't they? It is Kittle and Jennings. It's like Debo seems to have just fallen off the face of the planet. Brandon Ayuk obviously is injured. Now that McCaffrey's out as well, and Jordan Mason's out, so I suppose are they going to play Garendo, I would have thought, as their main running back. It feels like that it could go to both of them, to be honest. So I just went with the price at 21-10 for Jennings, as he's a bit bigger. So yeah, Marvin Harrison, Keon Coleman, Juwan Jennings, 21.16 to 1. If you wanted to change Coleman for Shakir, I wouldn't be against it at all.
Yeah, I only steered away from Coleman because of the injury, and you know, you got to wait till the practice report from Thursday night, and I was like, oh, do I really want to come out on Friday and say, yeah, it's going to be him and him not play? But it's well trending towards him playing, so I think that is a good bet because he's the jump ball guy in the end zone, isn't he? That's what he's good at, whereas Shakir's a lot smaller, so it might be a different style of play. But odds are looking good on all of them, and I'm quite confident on every name we've said across all of them. So it's looking quite good. Juwan Jennings, just away from betting, how much do you think they regret not trading Ayuk at the start of the year with how well Juwan Jennings is playing, and he could have just been him, and they've got Ricky Pearsall and Debo, and they could have got rid of Ayuk and moved forward with the team they've got. Do you think they're kicking themselves about that?
I think it's one of them things in hindsight. It sounds like a really good idea. But at the time, you're just looking at it going, he's one of our main guys. And of course we're going to play him. But yeah, I mean, if you looked at it now, you would argue, but if you traded him, you could have got a decent pick. And then you could have used Jennings. And like you say, Ricky Pearsall's coming through. So you could have him as well. And I think more often than not, the best thing to do is probably to pay your guys. And normally that works out okay, unless you're Dallas, I suppose. But yeah, apart from that, in that respect, it normally works. So yeah, I completely get why they did it. It's just unfortunate the way that everything's worked out, and well, I say unfortunate. It's quite nice that they're not going to be around. So no offense, 49ers fans, but we need a year off.
I think it's good for them to have a year off and get them time, because like I said, they've got a lot of old players. So if they take a year off, reset, they're going to have a better draft pick, which is something they never have. And they're going to have that good draft pick in round 1, round 2, round 3. It will give them chance to rebuild with some stronger players and come back, because they are getting old. So I think playing the way they have and having it's not a bad year off. They're not horrendous, are they? It's quite good for them, and I think the fans won't mind 1 year off, reset, big players, go again next year. So
I mean, they're 14th at the moment in the draft order, so they'd be able to get themselves a really good piece there, and they wouldn't be too bad. And like you say, they've been around for a long time. I think they've just stumbled across a year where injuries have just got them. And like you say, it's difficult to overcome that, and they are getting older, so they're going to get more injuries. So they do need to bring in some younger players. So it kind of makes sense, really.
One more before we go, Adam. we mentioned the Falcons and when we were talking about the games. If Kirk Cousins plays badly again, like he has done the last 3 games, and there's no touchdowns and it's all interceptions again, does Michael Penix become the starter of the following week?
What are they? I mean, no, I don't think he does, which is a shame. I'm just quickly looking at let me look at the division, because it's very tight, isn't it, between them and the Bucks? So
yeah, I think they're level. I think they're level.
Are they level now? Oh, they are level. Yes, they are. They are level. So have the Falcons got them on head to head or something?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's tight. I mean, it's going to be very tight. And of course, if the Bucks win and they lose to the Vikings, which they might do, and then the Bucks got a fairly easy, or not easy, but easy-ish game, so you would maybe think that could happen. Yeah, it's going to be close, but do you bring in a rookie quarterback to get you in the playoffs?
I mean, can you rely on if Cousins has another game where no passing touchdowns, no lots of interceptions, you can't go, oh yeah, we can go forward and try and push for the playoffs with that. Surely you go, let's roll with a guy that's young and maybe can do something. I don't know. Maybe he comes in this game.
Possibly. It's one of them conversations where I think you have to work out if you really feel like you've got a chance of doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you really do feel like you've got a chance of doing something, then you have to do it. And if you sort of think to yourself, are we gonna get in the playoffs? And then if you look at who's around and you go, okay, who are we likely to play? We're likely to play the Vikings, and we've just got, you've just been beaten. Or I suppose a bit of home, so it'd be different in that respect. But you sort of think to yourself, or we're going to have to play the Packers, or we're going to have to play the Commanders, or something like that. I suppose it depends how confident you are, like truly confident you are. You don't have to publicly come out and say it, but like just how truly confident are you that you think you can? It's about whether you think you can get a playoff win or not, because that's all that they need to do this year is get that. If they can get a playoff win, then great. But I don't know. I think if you bench the guy you've just signed on a 3-year, $180 million deal, it's tough to come back.
Now you've been bringing Penix in to play against the Raiders, followed by the Giants if he does come in.
I mean, it would be nice to see.
I want to see him.
I mean, we all want to see him play because we all loved him at Washington, didn't we? So that's why we would love to see him play. And he's got the guys there. They do have the offensive weapons that can do it. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough to bring a rookie in this time.
It is. But he's got a lot of experience. He's like Bo Nix. He's not just any other rookie that's raw. So
True.
Don't know, but yeah, that's one for the chat show. I'm sure. Hopefully, I think they've already spoke about it. I think it's a topic they brought up last week. I think so. Yeah, it could be interesting. But best of luck to everybody's teams this week. We'll get the FTag 5 out on socials this week, and because we've been doing well. I think we've had 5 winners on it, if you including a couple of pushes and things. So. It's going well. It's been a good year for it. So you if you had £5 on every week, you're still well over sort of £600-700, aren't you? So it's going well. So fingers crossed we get you some more winners and keep it with the franchise tag and see you again very soon.